At least this isn't Kano, like, or at least we're not talking about Kano Blitz, because that's just like such a nightmare.
Wildfire is such a shithead card.
I know.
It's all I play in Blitz, because I have said I am famous for saying I don't like playing Blitz, so I'm not happy playing Blitz. And if I'm not happy playing Blitz, nobody's going to be happy playing Blitz.
Maybe I should do the same thing, because I'm not a Blitz fan either, because I'm like, I hate this goddamn format.
This format's so fucking, it's so RNG.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Tonight, we have very special things going on. We have Tommy from Fresh and Buds, because Jason is not here tonight. And we are going to spend the entire podcast while we were recording, hoping that the BNR goes live, just because I want to see the downfall of Prism live on the air.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, I understand that nothing is going to happen. I actually think nothing happening would be good. As somebody who has spent most of my Flesh and Blood career playing OG Bravo and Kano, I kind of
some hate in your heart,
evilly, like just want her to die. So, however that has to happen, I'm down for.
So we got Tommy on. Tommy, thank you for joining us. I love
Absolutely.
what you do over at your cast, man. Like that's one of that for being a content creator, admittedly, I don't listen to like a ton of other podcasts. There's like, I've got like a rotation. I try to get a few through. Like I try to listen, like even if I visited one 4 or 5 months ago, I'll try to like re-listen to it, see how they're doing, But I got to say, like yours, Arsenal Pass, Push a Point, like you guys are always staples. Like I just listen to your shit like basically whenever it comes out. So really excited to have you on. But thanks for joining us, dude.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that, and I'm a lot like you, right? There's so many podcasts, right? And especially in Flesh and Blood, every day there's like a new one, and one of the things I try to do is like I just try to like throw them on, just that, like if I can't pay attention, I at least want to give like my friends like a listen or a view or whatever. But yeah, no, it's so hard, but no, I really appreciate that, and I'm super stoked to be on here. I love podcasting and I love being on podcasts. So this is like awesome. And, we got to like sit across from each other in Vegas, Dane. That was so sweet. We were like, oh, we're not going to get paired up. And then we did get paired up and, and here we are. I don't know if we're going to get the banned and suspended announcement, but I'm with you on the downfall of Prism. I hate that goddamn deck, man. That deck is so annoying. And like I play like Brute, right? I play a lot of like Levia, which I have a pretty good matchup, right, to Prism, but it doesn't matter. I think it's like that deck could just pull out these wins, like unlike any other deck. And you know what? Get it out of here. We have a new illusionist in town.
Right. I think Dromai's going to be really interesting. She seems to fulfill like this weird middle ground, right? Where I don't know, man. I don't know where she's going to end up fitting in the meta, because I think we were talking about it in our group chat that you've got the possibility to pop all of her pings, right? Which you don't have with Prism. But at the same time, like if that's like, she also just has dragons that have really good effects. Like the fact that you can't do things on their turn, that's defense reactions. That's like, that is, you don't swing with that dragon and you're fucking fine, man. Like she does so much in that way that I feel like it's really difficult to judge right now. But yeah, man, I love Prism. Like I think it's a fun deck. I would genuinely love it if it was just a little less feel bad. Like, and I think it has become that less painful. Like I know that like at the peak of its like 23 aura build, it was just like, what the fuck am I playing? Like, why am I doing this? Like it felt bad to play, because it felt, especially into like Bravo OG Guardian, because we played a ton and tested a ton for Blake to get reps into it, was you would have either games where you wouldn't see what you needed to and just get fucking floor wiped, or you would just snowball like crazy and wipe the floor with them. And it's like, cool, one or the other. One of us is going to feel like dog shit after this game. So that'll be good.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on Droma. I think that's going to be interesting. Actually, it was right before I hopped on this, I was playing a game on TTS with a friend of the show, Copy Cody. And I was on Droma. He was on, of course, Rhinar. And, that deck plays out in such a more fun way than Prism to me. And there's so many interesting lines. And it also, I think, Burn Them All is easily one of going to be one of the marquee cards of Uprising going forward. It's so good. First of all, it's beautiful. It's the best art ever, but it's also on the field, you're just wait, just from your graveyard, and they're your opponent's oh God. So no, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing is to your point, Tommy, is the deck feels more fun to watch. And I think that's the big thing in Flesh and Blood is the game is so interactive that there are losing in moments of no interaction when it's short and small spans where you've played really clean for a long time is when it feels bad. Admittedly, I play Kano and sometimes people are I kill you, and I go, I know you're at 36, but I'm actually going to kill you before you kill me. But those games are fewer and far between, and typically it's from some insane number out. I'm not waiting until someone's at 6, they've played a perfectly clean game for 40 minutes, and then I just go, oh, but Merciful Retribution and Ode to Wrath. It's oh, cool, yeah. No, I mean, I played the game perfect up to this point. I had to do this to kill you, and now I lose because I did the right thing, but the game state says you lose. That feels bad, and I think that's where Prism sometimes really gets under people's skin. Is she does things sometimes that feel bad because you're I did the exact right thing, and I got punished in spite of doing the exact right thing. And Jeromai seems much more in the lane of you just have to do the right things. You'll be punished if you don't, but as long as you do the right things for the most part, you're not going to get counter punished for just doing things. And I don't know. It's interesting to me. She seems interesting, and dragons are way cooler than auras. That's all I'm saying. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue that, right? I will say, big Brandon Sanderson fan, so I love the Light Weaver aspect of Prism, but yeah, we totally went immediately off on a tangent. But what I was gonna say was, Tommy, I love your podcast, and I love that you always give people a platform to basically introduce themselves as a person to the community, right? I've listened to a bunch of your interviews, and every time you always ask them. So I want to give you the platform because I've said, I feel you haven't got, because it's not we get on our podcast and are all right, this is me, guys, listen to all of my background and history. It's you don't do that on your own. You only do that when you're a guest. So I would love to hear, who's Tommy? What do you do, man?
Well, thank you. And, part of me, before I get into it is I have guests on. I like to give them a little runway, and it's feature them. That's what it's all about. They're the buds. They're coming in. I want them to, be comfortable and stuff like that and talk about themselves. But, I also get a little jealous of hanging out with my close buddies I've known for a long time and having a podcast. So, and you guys definitely give that vibe, which is a lot of fun. But who am I? Well, I mean, outside of Flesh and Blood, I've been playing trading card games since 2009. I played a lot of some game called Magic before for a little bit, and
what's that?
Yeah. I mean, I at this point I actually don't know what that is, but and actually, someone offered, this is a tangent, but the other night, one of my friends who kind of plays still, it was hey, I think we're gonna do this really cool cube tournament thing if you want to join in. And normally I would have been all over it, but I was I don't even remember. I mean, I remember how to play Magic, but I don't even remember the joy, and I'm so into Flesh and Blood now. It's just it feels so weird going back there. But enough about inferior games. But I discovered Flesh and Blood in I guess July of 2021, and kind of picked up the blitz decks, the Monarch blitz decks, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I think the thing that led me to having a podcast was basically I was thinking about this game all the time because I was like I had fallen in love with it, and a lot of like my friends that I had like initially gotten into Magic with, that was like back in high school, so they're not really getting into new games as much anymore. So I was like, well, I want to talk about it, and I might as well just start recording it because like I had done some podcasting before, and I enjoyed it, and I listened to a lot of podcasts. So I was like, oh, well, I'll do it, and it kind of evolved. I mean, if you listen back to my first couple episodes, it's like weird and it's like the spiral into insanity of me talking to myself, and eventually I got some guests.
Just how it goes, man. Dude, ours are fucking there. I remember like for the first 3 or 4 episodes, I was trying to manually click between who was talking because like I didn't know shit. All of this is self-taught, like for all of us. Like we had no idea. So I was like clicking between the pictures, like Jason's talking now, pull him up, and it's like flipping by, just a fucking mess, just a hot mess. So we feel that.
Oh yeah. I mean, like we all like have to like stumble and figure out like our voice. So like, that's kind of what happened. I started to get some guests, and my first guest, which I'm actually hoping to get back on for the 50th episode, which will be coming out next month, was Taylor Morrow from Attack Action Podcast. And him and Isaac, I just love those guys. Just like they give like such like a cool vibe, and it's a lot different than a lot of other more strategic like focused podcasts in terms of like I feel like I'm just hanging out in a coffee shop with them, which is like a weird, it's like unique. So like I enjoyed that, and ever since then been going to events and stuff like that. And then outside of this, my real job's just selling beer. So I'm in the car all the time, which is why I listen to podcasts. And it's I don't know. Podcasting is the best. I mean, you guys already know, but
it's fun, dude. It's definitely fun. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm in the car all day too. I do medical. I'm a medical courier, so like I run between like in Minnesota, it's Fairview. Fairview owns like fucking they own everything basically all over the United States. But I'll do like, so I'm in the car between jobs and between runs and stuff for 10 hours a day, just jamming out every podcast that I can listen to. Like I told you beforehand, I'm really into like Two Bears, One Cave right now, but Flesh and Blood, when a new one drops from one of you three, that's immediate. It's like, cool, great. Flesh and Blood content. Let's go. So.
I appreciate it. But, that's just kind of where I'm at, with everything. And it's just like, I love meeting people. I love meeting you guys, and like, it's just like the best. I think I mean, it gets beaten like a drum all the time that this is the best community, but it really is. So like, it's worth saying, I think. And it's cool because in other games, I feel like in other communities it gets a little more like, I don't know, competitive in the content creator space, and I don't think any of us are like that, hopefully. I mean, not to my knowledge, but yeah.
I mean, we're sort of indifferent. We kind of we kind of remove ourselves from all, like, Outcasts was not like a grab in the dark. Like we came from Destiny, where there was the cool kids that were like doing content and stuff, and they didn't want anything to do with us. So we're like, fuck this. Okay, we're the Outcasts. Outer Rim Outcasts, baby. That's where it started. But
I love it.
Yeah, dude. So Vegas, we sat across from each other for the premiere, which was fucking wild because I and you had the mask on, right? And I sat down and I was like, dude, that's fucking Tommy. But it's one of those things where I wasn't certain enough to go up with like hard confidence. I was like, dude, I fucking recognize him. As soon as you said something, I was like, hey, dude, what's up? I recognized your voice immediately. You got like that distinct sound. But how was your Vegas experience, man?
It was good. It was my first time in Vegas. First of all, we had talked about it when we sat across from each other, how excited we were about Uprising, and just to be able to be there and play it. And I wasn't at the Las Vegas for, well, obviously since it was my first time, but wasn't there for Tales of Aria. But I remember like watching the coverage and seeing everything on Twitter, and everybody was like freaking out, about opening these cards. I was like, God, I want to do that one day. Uprising came along and gave me that opportunity. But Vegas was cool. I was there for a good time, not to win anything, that's for sure. I did win a little bit at the blackjack tables, I will say.
There you go.
Flesh and Blood not so much, but we'll
the real winners.
Regains...
What was that saying, Blake? The real winners. There was something like, or the friends you made along the way, or some shit like that. Someone said something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Somebody said that about Uprising. They're like, is there going to be a fourth hero that we're going to find out?
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
that's what it
wasn't the fourth hero of Uprising the friends we made along the way?
I love, man. But Vegas was cool. I had never been to Vegas. I stayed with Logan Peterson from Flesh and Pod, and he's a Vegas pro, so he showed me around, and we got to hang out with a lot of cool people, see a lot of cool people, and luckily I didn't get too drunk or anything like that. I was a little worried with the dry heat, but we made it through, I think, in one piece. But I had done the weekend before in Atlantic City for work, so it was like I was a little worried. I was like, this is going to be a crazy 1-2 punch, but we survived. And Flesh and Blood was cool.
Yeah. Got the fingers warmed up in Atlantic City.
Yeah, well, I lost money. I had to make it back in Vegas. So.
So what was what so far? How many pre-releases have you done? Did you get to do some pre-releases this last weekend back at home?
Yeah, I was able to do one. So Saturday, or not unfortunately, but Saturday was the day I did my set review with Bill from the Spike Feeders. He came on, and that's like a 4-hour episode. So I wasn't doing anything that day, but luckily Sunday I found a small one near my house. I get to do it. It was a lot of fun, and then I may or may not have gone to an LGS the Monday that was doing Uprising drafts. Whether or not they should have been, I don't know, but but that was fun. And I mean, limited is my favorite way to play the game. So I'm like in love right now. Like Everfest was whatever, because I cracked those packs. Was 10 cards in there? It was just like, I mean, I don't. There's no picks to make. But before that, I didn't do a Tales of Aria pre-release because I think I was just busy the weekend, and because I work a lot of weekends sometimes, and but I was very fortunate to jam at least one Uprising one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Uprising, just in general, like release, because getting to do it for the first time, it was really cool to experience it and get a feel for the set, because I think after I don't think you were really missing anything, Tails. I don't know how much you drafted or done sealed and Tails, but you don't really miss a lot. Like moving on from Tails, it's like once we got to Everfest, my mentality was cool. Tails is in the rearview mirror. We never have to draft that set again. We never have to deal with it in limited.
I liked drafting. Blake, though, was like, you just struggled with that set. I feel like that set was just like, it didn't click.
Yeah, it didn't click. It wasn't. I did not enjoy the experience. I was a little frustrated, like completely honestly, with the setup of the set, where they were like, well, let's give a hero a significant amount of arcane damage. Everyone went, yeah, that's totally fine. And they said, no arcane barrier. None. How do I interact with the arcane? You don't. Unless you have Oldhim. You open a ton of blue earth, and you have to set it up just right. And you might have to leak some damage before. And it's just like, everything about this is not a good experience. And it felt like they learned a ton from Uprising. Learned a ton from Tails to put into Uprising, where now it's like, okay, well, it's a great middle ground between going, well, if you just put hard arcane barrier in, it just kills Icelander, especially because it wouldn't have been so much the same right back in the Kane. I don't know if you ever played Arcane Sealed, but that can feel a little oppressive with Kano, where he's just like 6 arcane, and you're like, well, I drafted 2 null rune. I guess I'm blocking 2. You you're just leaking like 4 damage every turn. It felt like that was like the original Briar. But now with Icelander, it's like, well, you couldn't give her like full on 2 or 3 block, because that's or 2 or 3 arcane, because it's sometimes all she can do in a turn. And if somebody's just like, no, I just pitch all and I stop all your damage, that'd be brutal. So Uprising's been great in my opinion, but what do you guys think of Uprising so far with your experience?
Yeah,
well, I will say I enjoyed Tales of Aria draft, and I still enjoy it. I'll jam Tales of Aria drafts, especially now after the errata. Which it didn't really matter that much, but it did come up enough that it was welcomed. Mm-hmm. But Uprising so far, I think this is such a banger. I think the design and like you said, the Quell alone is such a great thing to add to the game.
Yeah,
the mechanic's really good.
It's awesome. Yeah, sorry, I totally am jumping on your feet.
No, you're good.
Go for it, Tommy. Go for it.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's just like it's good to add different ways to block things in a game that it seems like everybody's trying to attack more, right? Mm-hmm. Every single new deck seems like a red line Cheerios deck. You know what? Give us some cool blocking mechanics, and I think they did that. And obviously Fi is going to be one way, but that's neither here nor there.
I love Quell as like the sealed. I was thinking about this as the sealed mitigation because it covers arcane, so they can add arcane to any set without having to introduce something that is just blatantly better than Null Rune, right? Like Quell, who's gonna run Quell in constructed anything? No one, right? Like, what does Quell provide really?
So I would argue that I think Quell could potentially long term have a place in the game where like a piece of equipment could have something ridiculous, almost like you could make a Carrion Husk style thing where it's like this has Quell 6, and if somebody wants to pitch 2 blues to stop 6 on one turn, then it just it creates an interaction with like Dominate, right? Like you could have a Quell piece of equipment that could sit there forever against certain decks and just stop Dominate, or it could stop pummel somebody like CNC pummel, and you're like, I Quell now. But you make it a bigger number, so they have to forfeit multiple cards for it, and it's like a one-time thing. But I like that one-time interaction for the turn, and if you made it a bigger number, like I said, it doesn't have to be 6, but if you make it more than one card, then now people have to start making decisions like, okay, it's Quell 4, that's really cool, but do I really want to give up 2 cards on one turn? It might be worth it. Certain decks might really like it one time.
Well, I mean, a big number like that would be great for decks that want to run instants, stuff like that. It's like, oh shit, I'm stuck up Shit's Creek because I got 2 time snap potions in my hand or something. It's like, pitch them. That's Quell 6, baby.
Yeah,
but
I will say that I'm boarding in Quell anytime I expect to see Steelblade Shunt or Reckless Swing. I think I've lost enough to those cards, and that's, as far as I can tell, the most efficient way to not die to them in the game right now. That can be available across almost all decks.
Yeah, it definitely across the board.
Funny enough and stuff. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, funny enough, we know that Tommy, like our first connection with Tommy, really, and the person who was like, you gotta talk to Tommy, you should connect with Tommy, he's going to Vegas, was Cody, our boy, who you were playing with before this, right? And Cody and I had one of the most epic battles ever in an Oldham versus Reinhardt game way back when I realized, like an idiot, we're playing in an Armory. I play Cody almost every week at Armory. It somehow happens. We get paired, whether it's first round or last round. And we were the last round of a tournament. Cody's got his Reinhardt. Like an idiot, I leak a damage, not thinking. I was like, oh, I'm fine here. I'm going to take it. I got a great setup in my arsenal. I'm not going to crown this away. And right as I'm about to play the card for my arsenal, I realize I'm at 2. I was like, oh no. What did I do?
Oh, but it was before you played the card from arsenal, right?
Yeah. So I snatched his graveyard up real quick, and I was like digging through it and had looked at him, and I was like, there's 2 Reckless Swing in here, Cody. Now you're not gonna lie to me, are you? You only play 2, right? And he just looked at me and he was like, I mean, I play at least 2. I was like, oh my God. So for the rest of the game, I would pitch on my turn. I would pitch Crown of Seeds, swing my hammer, or attack with something, arsenal a card. And I did it every turn for the rest of the game. Finally, I fatigued him. It took like another 12 turns of that loop.
All because you went down to 2.
We all because I went down to 2. I looked at him afterwards, And I was like, how many do you have? Like, I have to know. And he goes, I went down to 2. This is now like a loop that's happened to me. Another guy locally, Nick, that we call the body. So body he goes, I just lost a body because of Crown of Seeds for the same thing. I'm going to 3 tonight. I'm gonna go put it in my deck.
Oh my God. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I love the way Reckless Swing plays out, and like, especially with your opponent's mind. I love when, God, I think there's so many times, even in Vegas in the Battle Harden, I had, he's from Spark of Genius, which is another YouTube channel. He was on Lexi, and he went to 2. He went to 2, but didn't have to. And I was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, and I haven't seen it yet. And I was like, I was dead on the snapback if I didn't draw it. I didn't draw it, but it was very funny because as soon as the game ended, because he's friends with Yuki Lee Bender, great player, and she's like, what are you doing? Why are you going to 2? He's playing Levia. What are you doing? He's like, I don't know. I'm tired. You know, it's just warps games in a fun way. I think rather than like some cards will warp games in an unfun way.
Yeah.
The funniest thing about Reckless Swing is I'll get in a mindset where I'm playing a deck for a while where I need to really think about it, and I get really good at remembering. Okay, don't go to 2. Don't go to 2. I'm just religious about it. I'm like, I'm going to make him get me twice. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make him Reckless Swing me twice on the same turn with a high risk thing or one from Arsenal. I don't, at that point, I'll take it. But then I get into this cycle of playing Kano, and I don't even, like, my brain takes a little while to reacclimate to remembering defense reactions because I don't have to think about defense reactions anymore. So all the Reckless Swings they're just pitched. They're just pitched to 3-0. You know, and I don't even think about it. Then I come back and get Reckless Swinged within the first week of playing non-Kano decks. And it's like, oh God, nope, got to put back in the brain. Come on, front of the mind here. Don't die to brutes.
Remember the shunts and Reckless Swings. That's all you got to do. But now with Quell, you don't. I mean, you have to remember it, but you can at least plan for it a little bit.
Now you can play an interesting back and forth game.
So I know you love Levia, right? Like she's like your go-to. Are you looking at? I know you love Brute as well. Do you kind of bounce between? Like, do you like pick up and like if it's not Levia, it's Rhinar or something, or do you play a breadth of decks?
So I'll play a little bit of Rhinar. I'm a little bit off Rhinar right now. The more I play Rhinar, the more I miss Levia, if that makes sense. I love the graveyard engine, like mechanic. Like it just feels like when you're really humming with that deck, it feels so smooth and it's like so satisfying. With that little bit of variance too, to kind of like get your blood rushing a little bit and your bellows. And but I'll play other decks. You know, I played a little bit of Oldham in the Tails meta. I played Starvo once and I hated it. I really hated it. Starvo, God, I mean, this is like an aside. Like the Starvo and Levia are similar in a way that they both have like this kind of variance, but it's the opposite kind of variance. Starvo's like you got to be unlucky to lose, or you got to be lucky to lose. Like I guess in a way. Yeah. But with Levia, you got to be very lucky to win. So it's like they're both on the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of luck. And that just didn't do it for me. But I'm really digging Dromai actually, and just like really cool. I love the ashes and stuff like that. So I'm toying around with her and CC, but I'm also messing around with a little bit of Kano just because I got to learn Wizard. You know, I find the best way to learn a matchup is to play as the hero, and that's what I've been trying to do. And you know, I like a little bit of everything. You know, I'll probably play Azalea at some point because I just hate myself. So, you know, and just I love to like make things hard. But I mess around with like everything in a way. Yeah. So, but Levia is like when I want to be. This like sounds weird, but when I want to be competitive, I go to Levia.
Grab your
because
old trusty.
Yeah, I live and breathe the deck. I know it inside and out, and I feel like if I sit down and play someone who has to read my cards, I feel a little more confident, right? If they're looking at my Graveling Growl and like, what? That's 1 for 7? They're like, yeah, dude, kill you. No,
yeah, and you're dead now.
You're dead, dude. But yeah, it's Leviathan mostly, but I like messing around with everything else. And you know, like I said, limited is my favorite, so I get a good feel for any heroes that we can draft with.
It's so weird. Like this limited felt really interesting. Go ahead, Blake.
No, I was just gonna say, Tommy would really appreciate the fact that the armory that Cody and I go to, maybe three or 4 weeks ago, we had one of the weirdest lineups of decks ever, because we were coming up on Vegas, but we were post like our pro quest, so everyone was kind of playing their favorite decks versus the deck they were trying to win with. And we had a week where we had 3 Levias, 2 Rhinar, and 2 Kano. And I kid you not, it was like the craziest line. I've never walked into a situation where I was like, okay, wait, oh, Peter is a normal guy. He always plays Levia. Then another guy was like, yeah, I'm playing Levia. It's like, we have 2 Levias? This is crazy. And someone's like, oh, I'm playing Levia. And I was like, oh, wait, what?
Oh my God. I think LSS probably looked at that results, you know, when the armory results came in. They're like, right? Oh, this store's farming XP for players. They're making shit up, you know. Like, let's shut them down. Yeah, no, that's awesome though. I would have been like in heaven.
Yeah. I felt bad because as a Kano player, that's such a weird matchup for Levia, because I never give you a chance to put a card in your graveyard. You have to find a way to get them there on your own. So I didn't even think about how bad that matchup was, because I don't really play it that often. I don't run into a lot of Levia players. So the first guy said, and he's like, oh God, this one. I'm like, look, man, I know Kano just does Kano things sometimes. He's like, no, I can't play some of my cards. I was like, oh no, I guess when you defend against me, you don't get to put cards. And he's like, yeah. And so I have to physically play other cards to be able to even have access to certain
turn
cards.
On my whatever they call like Dread Screamers and stuff. Like, you're not playing none of that.
Turn 2 or 3, he just looked at me and he was like, pitch a red and a blue, swing the claw at you. And I was like, okay, take 3. And he's like, I can't use my cards. I only have 2 cards in my graveyard. I was like, I'm so sorry, man. I feel genuinely bad about this right now. Like, it's so unfun for either of us.
Well, that player's got to learn to side in the old Ravenous Meat Axe. Fill that graveyard up. I know it's not optimal, but I think that card's awesome.
Yeah, for that.
That's not a bad plan against Kano.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's, what, 5 every time, pretty much.
Yeah. It's got even better with the new yellow from the Brute deck. Pack call. Yeah. So you get to look, if it's a 6, you keep it on top, and if it's not, you throw the thing on the bottom. I was like, oh, Meat Axe is packing now. I mean, not great, but you know,
better than before. Yeah, it was really interesting, like getting that sealed experience. So we were fortunate enough, and by the way, super sorry that we didn't actually sit down and do like a draft or something when we were all there in Vegas. Like, I know we were talking about it beforehand, but we very selfishly got our hands on, we were like grubby little gremlins. We found like 9 to 11 random Uprising boxes that we would split like 6 to, what was the most, 8 ways between whoever wanted in on it. And we got a ton of opportunity to like do some draft and seal just kind of in our hotel room at the end of the night. And yeah, man, like this set feels the most blatantly different from like sealed to CC, like to like going from like a sealed format to a constructed format. It's like, I feel like this is not sealed is not a good temp gauge of what constructed will be like for these decks, because there's so many cards that like they want to run that are not in the set. But the sealed experience in a bubble is fucking amazing. Like, I love it. This is my favorite sealed set so far.
Icelander is interesting to me because I think, to your point, Dane, she's the deck that it feels like you get almost no gauge of in limited, because there are so many ice cards she has access to, so many wizard cards she has access to outside of Uprising, that she would just love to run because it completely changes the functionality of her deck. And I mean, honestly, like a true wizard, she's got a lot of higher rarity cards she wants access to as well. So like a lot of her positive plays are disruptive plays, setting up bigger plays. And it's hard to do that when, you know, you can't exactly in a limited pool expect to get like Channel Bleak Expanse and, you know, her like majestic, like you can't get all the majestics, and that's where she will actually get some power from. So it seems like I'm very interested to see how different these heroes play once the decks are actually constructed, because Icelander feels like she's not going to play the same game. I think a lot of people are going to get off of her very quickly because they're going to try and play a game where they go blue card from Arsenal, zap you with Wand, blue card from Arsenal, zap you with Wand. And that game plan works in sealed because people have a limited amount of access to like effectively like null ruining away, right? They can barrier away that damage. Whereas in constructed, there are some decks that if you just go 2 arcane, 3 arcane to them all day, they're like, cool, I can wait you out. You'll run out of cards eventually. Like your weapon actually does die at some point. Like it becomes Luminaris, because you have to play a card before you can attack with it. And I think that's a really interesting, thing. I actually played Dromai at one of the pre-releases because I had not touched her yet, and she was a really fun experience. I had a decent enough pool, and she's another deck that I'm so interested in how she's going to be built, because I feel like she comes out of the gate with a toolbox to be built in a lot of different ways. Which is, I like decks like that personally.
She's got a really wide variance, but yeah, Tommy.
Yeah, I wanted to, agree with you with Icelander, right? In limited here, you especially the draft, you are drafting to optimize the waning moon, right? That's like all you're doing. It's like you want to be able to waning moon on your turn and their turn, and try to kill them and not really have to block much. But in the reality for constructed is you're not even playing waning moon. You're playing the Aether Vein from most likely
that
playing
or Crucible. I feel like Crucible might actually be a valid
Crucible
option. Is
a great option. I think
get those frostbite hit effects and stuff, but
yeah, I think adding that extra damage is probably going to be. I think there's going to be two different schools of thought here. It's kind of huge, big spells with the Crucible, but I think with that Kraken's Aether Vein, I think what we're going to see is we're going to get really used to people going pitch to the coronet on your turn, and then you're like, okay, and then they're gonna activate Kraken's Aether Vein. You're like, do I let them draw the card or whatever? Then they arsenal, they do crazy stuff on your turn, go on back to their turn, pitch to the coronet.
I think there's gonna be a couple different play lines that like that one for sure. I thought because there's so many. I love. And we've talked about this pretty extensively in our chat, but it's Icelander, I am not convinced is going to be amazing. And I think a lot of people are going to fall off her because there's not a clear win con. It's going to be a paced out tempo win almost every time. I can't imagine that there's I can't think of what don't let Icelander do this thing other than play 3 Frost Hexes on you, right? Which with a lot of decks, that's not going to get there. But the thing that excites me about her is that I feel like she's going to have a lot of flexibility in what play lines she pursues mid game, because you can that can be in this matchup, I'm playing this player, and I feel like she opens the door to play the player a lot, where you can do that pitch to the coronet. Do they pitch a red? Great. I'm going to hit them with the Kraken right away, because now they have to pitch another card, or they pitch a blue. They've got some floating resources. Cool. Now instead, I'm going to throw an attack at them that they need to block. You know what I mean? I think there's going to be that split, and you're going to be able to play the player that you're playing against and what their decision points are and reacting to them more so than. But yeah, Blake, you look like you're chomping.
I was just because Coronets doesn't have go again. Just FYI.
Oh shit! Yeah,
it's an action, just a once per turn action.
That's right.
You have to do it. You have to do it
honestly
at the end or do something with instance.
I honestly haven't been running that headpiece, so that's fair. But yeah, maybe old Dane figured that out and was like, "Yeah, I'm not running this."
I feel I think people are gonna try to like make her play like Kano, but I think the real strength to her is going to be that like weird chip damage control plan. And then I would not, because I don't know how much blitz you guys play, but I would not be surprised to see like that fire breathing win con being played in
Exude,
the Exude and fire breathing. I mean, I love fire breathing. I think that card's just like awesome because like especially in Icelander, because your opponent's just like, God damn it, do I block this out? And if I block it out, I have no arcane barrier, right? And
well, I think too that like it's interesting because the math on Exude versus fire breathing is like if you have
Exude's favor.
It's in Exude's favor until you have 4 blues in hand, and then the math works better for paying for fire breathing. But yeah, no, like, that was one of my 2 losses in the team event. Was I lost to a Briar that just fucking Channel Mount Heroic to turn 0 on me, and I was like, well, fuck, like this is gonna suck. But then I was an Icelander that was running. They were running fire breathing, running exudes, running a bunch of defense reactions, and just that was like the first like really well piloted built Icelander that I had played against. I think I played like maybe 1 or 2 in locals, but nothing like that, and it totally caught me off guard. And it's like, if you can do that, I mean, and he played to what I was doing very well. Like he would wait, like he would do something, wait for me to pitch to some arcane, not have any floating, and then he would Kraken. You know what I mean? Like he was very good about playing like that, which I think is what Icelander is going to excel at. But also the decks that don't have like clear victory win cons, people kind of tend to fall off. So yeah, I'm curious to see what happens.
I'm sure a lot of the true control players from other games that kind of came over, started playing OG Bravo and then like Oldham, they're gonna really excel with Icelander, and it'd be honestly just super annoying, and I hate them all. No.
Yeah,
I don't know.
She's interesting. She's interesting to me for one reason, and that's because I think that, to your point, Tommy, people are going to immediately build her similar to Kano and try to make her a wizard. But funny enough, that's exactly what people did with Oldham when he first came out. Was they were just trying to build him like Bravo. It's like just jam Bravo cards in him and try to. Well, and you realize very quickly it's like, well, we kind of need the earth and the ice cards. Those are relatively important to his strategy because that's how he wins, and he's much more defensive, playing to like a couple big turns throughout the game where he Oakenolds or Glacials with a pummel or something, and he's having these like big chunks he's just taking from your life. And Icelander is going to have that mentally depart from Kano and say, look, she can't be played like Kano because she doesn't have Kano's hero power.
She's a bad Kano. If you play her like Kano, you're going to just be disappointed because she does
like
Kano
literally
substantially worse.
Yeah. People like Tome of Divinity, that'll be good in her because it gives her like a Kano from Arsenal. And you're like, no, it's bad in her because it's expensive and it's totally blind, and it makes your deck have to be all arcane spells.
Yeah.
And what happens when you just hit 2 blues? You're like, cool, I paid 3 and then probably 1 or 2 to deal 1 arcane damage. This is the worst trade in history. Like that's bad Kano, man. Like even Kano doesn't.
The only
doesn't
thing I could
fail at
see, the only thing would be like a super hard setup deck. But like that, even that, like what does it get you? What does it truly get you off the top? You know what I mean?
The problem is she doesn't finish like Kano, because that's the thing is like Kano has finishing power because he has Blazing Aether. When all else fails, just try to deal like 15 and then make that 15 30. She doesn't have Blazing Aether because that card belongs to Kano. If she did, you could play a completely different game where you played like a Stir Forked off your boots and then did like a Tome of Divinity from Arsenal with a Blazing Aether off the top. Like you could set up some crazy play like that with energy pots and stuff, but you can't do that because she doesn't have a way to double her arcane,
Yeah, I'm not even running the boots like in like my core build. Like that's like a side, but the core build, like I'm just running Mage Masters, like because it's such a defensive. The way that I'm currently testing, like I've only got 2 games on it like this in this current iteration, right? But it's just a defensive like control build, trying to set up like the Frost Hex and saving some larger damage. Well, I've got like some 6 attack stuff like that in there to push damage as I'm setting up my arsenal for defense. But like it's the Toma Fendal Mage Masters, like snag that from Bravo, throw it in. That's not what you want to have in arsenal, but if you see it, but I don't see what the boots do for her in every matchup. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, it lets you play at instant speed, which is you still win like a wizard. Like you can still play Stir Fort, or you can still play Stir into an arcane spell where you can play something from Arsenal like a Frost Hex and then pop your boots and just blast them for a bunch of frostbites. Because that's the thing too, is like she has the capability of putting a couple Frost Hexes on somebody and then at the end of their turn just dropping like
pitching a blue
6 frostbites
boots and Stir and into even the free one, like like just being able to like spam somebody with a bunch of frostbites and say here's 5 now with Frost Hex you're going to take 10 and it's 5 right now, so here's just 15 damage instantly from my hand. That's so, dude, it's really interesting too, because like I've been chatting with Dave a lot more because of this, and like he's the wizard man, right? Like he is the wizard player of wizard players. And seeing like the list that he put together and the list that you've been like, because you got, I'm assuming that you got your list from Dave too. Like I can't remember when we were first talking, but it's very much like, how can we make this Kano list work with ice? It's a very wizardy Icelander list, and my thought process going into her is not at all like wizardy, because I don't have a ton of wizard experience. But yeah, I'm just really curious to see what ends up coming out as a successful Icelander build. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's something that I think right now it's like, because we're playing so much limited, right? We're thinking in the scope of what she does in the set, but still has access to Winter's Bite, which is awesome out of Arsenal. Still has access to like Frostfang, which is like a weird, but like kind of plays really well in Icelander. Just like out of nowhere, people don't really expect it.
Oh, I love Frostfang. Yeah, I'm running red Frostfangs, red the one with the ice hockey player,
Icy Encounter.
Icy Encounter.
Icy Encounter.
Yeah. And then one of my favorite things to do in Icelander is expose the elements. Right, you start blowing up their
take that arcane
you start blowing up their arcane barrier. You're just like, all right, I'm setting up for my actual win con. Like, this is, we're not here for.
I have 2 Insidious Chills out. When I fused this, I go, sorry, better fucking get rid of some cards, buddy. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I think that there's a build, right? There is Icelander build, control build exists that will be good. I'm curious to see what it looks like.
I think it's gonna, that saying, we're not here for a long time, we're here for a good time. It's the opposite. We're here for a long time, not a good time. So buckle in.
I want to make people really frustrated. That's all I want. I historically I'm a control player, so I like tempo decks though too. Like I'm very on board with like that methodical tempo game plan. So I don't need to.
I just need her to play. Sad. I just need her to play weird, because those are my favorite decks. I like weird decks. Yeah. Like when weird decks are good, I'm just in my happy place. That's why I love Kano, because he just does weird things, and mechanically he just misbehaves all the time. Like, you need an action point. I don't need an action point. Action points are for noobs. Okay.
Let me use this action point for like right away to play this tome, and then I'm just gonna play the rest of my turn, which will be 16 cards without an action point. So yeah.
It's the best, man. I like when somebody puts their cards down and just tells me when they have to do something. They're like, you just tell me when you gotta do something. Tell me when you need me to be here for this game. I'm just like, I'm gonna do some Kano stuff. Kano.
You just let him play solitaire. Just like,
yep,
have fun, man.
Yeah.
That's actually.
I hope you don't hit everything, but
I really learned to love playing into Kano, because it's actually really kind of alleviates a lot of stress playing into a Kano, because you're like, I am just going to I'm only playing to present lethal, with as high of health as possible. That's it. I'm literally blocking out damage, like blocking arcane damage. It's like, and lethal. I'm at 18. Can you do 18? And then I just sit back and it's like, all right, watch their brain fucking fry because they're sitting there like, oh, God. And I'm getting a t-shirt. This came up a couple weeks ago. I was like, I'm getting a t-shirt that says, oh, I was one resource short, because I've heard that so many fucking times playing into Kano. Like, oh, if I had one more resource. Oh, if I had. So it's always entertaining when you get that win after presenting the lethal. It's like, but a lot of times, especially playing Blake, he gets the win, and that's just as fine. Like, you know, it's like I did what I could. I played a clean game, and he killed me from 22 out. Fair enough, Blake. You got this time.
You know, at least this isn't Kano, like, or at least we're not talking about Kano Blitz, because that's just like such a nightmare.
Wildfire's
such a shithead card.
I know.
It's all I play in Blitz, because I have said I am famous for saying I don't like playing Blitz, so I'm not happy playing Blitz. And if I'm not happy playing Blitz, nobody's going to be happy playing Blitz.
Maybe I should do the same thing, because I'm not a Blitz fan either, because I'm like, I hate this goddamn format.
This format's it's so RNG.
It's like I like CC just like setting up like a long-term game plan. That's just like what I want to do. Like, you know. Yeah.
It feels the most rewarding. Like, I don't even feel rewarded a lot of times playing Kano and Blitz, because sometimes it's just like, you know what? I either win or I lose based on what's on top of the deck. And it's like, I have an opt. I'm just going to go for it. Just like pitch to Kano, Blazing Aether. Good game, or you want me to do this? Like, you want me to actually play? You don't have any cards in hand. I'm going to play the Wildfire, and I'm going to randomly play a thing off the top, and then I'm going to play Blazing Aether for like 40. So... are we good here? Are we done? You want me to report or you?
Unless you're playing in a team event and you see me whispering in Blake's ear, then you're like, I got this win. Did you hear that? Did you hear that story? There was a round in the team event where I was on Kasai, Blake was on Kano, and Robert was on Rhinar, and I finished first somehow. I was actually my mirror match round, and I finished first. Like, it was really clean. It was a good game. And all of a sudden I look over and Blake's like, I don't know if I go for it here. And I'm like, did you get around to your deck? Like, are you at your pitch stack? You gonna have like, because he had a hand of blues. I was like, are you gonna have a hand of blues next turn, or do you start pitching and try and play something? Do you try to finish him here? He's like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna be coming around. I don't want to hit reds. And I was like, dude, go for it, man. Like, I got the win. Robert's still playing. He's on Rhinar. Rhinar might get the win too. Like, we're good. Just go for it. Then I move down, and Robert's like, dude, I don't know what to do here. And he's looking. And right before Robert finishes out, because I told Robert to go for it too. I was like, I'm just like a go-getter, right? I'm just like, go for it, man. Have fun. Like, go nuts. And I look back, and Blake's packing up, and he lost. And I look over, and Robert's packing up, and he lost. And I was like, no. I'm not giving any more advice. Like, I'm pretty much done with this. So...
Oh, man,
dude, that team event was fucking fun, man.
Ironically, I was one resource short.
Oh, what? Oh my god!
I had one more resource. Oh,
I think I saw a meme the other day that was like, man, it was like one of those fake like Onion articles or whatever. It was like, man, like a local man devastated to know that his opponent would have beat him if he had 2 more turns.
That's amazing. Oh, did you play in the team event?
I did. I played with Logan, who I stayed with, and we had this guy Anthony from my Discord.
That's right. You told me you had a guy from your Discord that was hopping on your team with you. How'd that go?
Yeah. It was actually his first event ever. So we were there for the good time, not the long time.
Nice.
I was on Levia. Logan was on Kasai, and Anthony was the lone data doll in the
How did he end up?
Not great. I don't think he took a single game, but we ended up like 2-3 drop or something like that.
Yeah.
It was fun. That is, that is where Blitz is tolerable for sure. In the team event space. I hope we get more team Sealed. I really hope for a team draft calling at some point. That sounds like the most fun I've ever heard in my life.
A team draft would be fucking awesome. That would be so
cool.
They did one of the coolest events that I've ever heard of was when they did New Zealand that never made its way to the States. And they did an event where it was a team and every team got, I believe it was 3 packs of Welcome to Wraith, 3 packs of Arcane Rising, and 3 packs of Crucible. You had to build 3 decks out of it.
What? That's pretty cool.
And it was cool because they talked about, I think it was Kieran and Carol on Session Blood talked about how they played in it. And there was an interesting strategy where you went, okay, do we build 3 good decks? Or do we try to build a lopsided, like 2 really good decks? And then one guy, we just go, look, man, you're playing Azalea. Do what you can. If you get us a win, great. We're going to try and go 2-1 every round, and we're going to try and win. And they basically said that they had a good showing, and they put poor Carol. He was the Azalea.
He was the lopsided deck. Yeah.
Yeah, and he took Azalea, a bunch of arrows, but then like one of them played Katsu, and he's like, "Well, I could use the Ravenous Rabbles." And Carol's like, "That's fine. I'm just gonna give up everything. You guys make your decks great." So he didn't have like any non-arrow go-agains. He didn't have. It was just like, hope I have a nimbleism. Hope I can play an arrow with dominate. Like
just
that every
the
round.
Bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, he's just doing one of these, like throwing it up, praying to RNGesus. You know, like let this top card be an arrow. Just let it be an arrow.
Dude, that's
funny.
So much fun.
Your opponent, like if you're playing the bad deck and your opponent sees you pitch a crack bobble, they immediately turn to their 2 teammates. You're like, we're in trouble, you know?
Yeah.
like, all the cards are in their decks, you know?
Yeah. That guy's got 5 Majestics. What is happening over there?
What is going on?
Player A is winning every round, come hell or high water.
God damn.
Yeah.
Dude, team events are going to be so much fun. That team event was the best tournament experience I've had. Like playing at nationals, like everything. Like the team event was the most fun by far. I would do that again in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Tommy, you said come Uprising, you seem interested in Jeromai, but I'm curious what your first thoughts are on just the meta in general. Like where do decks lie? With the death and the send off of Chain and Starvo, be it Chain's kind of Viking funeral and Starvo's 300 kick into the hole. Like now that we're rid of those 2 monstrosities, are we just waiting for Prism to die and then move on to a free format, or is she fine now? Is she going to get bullied a little bit?
I don't know if she'll be bullied, but I think we'll see her kind of recede a little bit. We're going to see, some go wide stuff that kind of just really like makes it tough for her to makes it tough for someone to choose to play her. I think she still has play against those decks, especially on the Herald plan or whatever. But the aura version of her is just not going to be something we see a lot of. That being said, honestly, I really like Leviah in this meta. Obviously,
I love it, dude. Fucking Leviah truther for
I'm like the toughest matchup for Leviah in the last meta. Was dominated Crippling Crush and dominated Oakenold, but I guess that was kind of everybody's tough matchup.
Yeah, it's a rough one for everybody.
But like especially so with Leviah, because if you don't have a hand, you take 10 blood debt, right?
Yeah.
And I know some people were winning with the no blood debt version, and I'm here to say I'm a purist. I'm not. I tried playing the no blood debt version once, and it just didn't feel right. I was like,
just
what
play
am I doing?
OG Bravo if you're gonna do that. Just
yeah, right. Or even just like play Club Rhinar at that point. I get that you get a little bit of cool stuff, but I think Briar's in a good spot. I think OG Bravo is kind of in a good spot. It depends on Prism, right? I think both Oldham and Bravo kind of depend on how much Prism we see.
I think that Prism gets just like an update to her build because I don't know. I love Prism too because like I said, it's a tempo. It's more like that tempo game plan, which I'm also on board with aside from Control. And like a lot of the decks that I think will see a lot of play. Like I think that Dromai will see a lot of play. But all of her big attacks are illusionist attacks, which cannot pop illusionist attacks. So it's like, I mean, I think, and Fi might see a lot of play too, which I think is fair, right? But he's not running a ton of high power attack 6s, right? I think Prism, like you stated, to totally agree with you, is going to see maybe a drop because of the new set, the new excitement, the new heroes coming out that we want to try. But I think that she still has a completely valid build, right? And I think that she's going to be fun. I think she's going to be less feel bad too. I think that like aura heavy that just is like steamrolling people, I don't think that's going to be as viable. But we'll see. You know, I tend to agree with you.
It's interesting because like Dromai, right, like has those illusionist attacks, but they're illusionists, so they can't pop things. But Dromai loves reds, and I think Dromai's playing a race face and Command and Conquer if sure popping things is an issue, right?
With Dromai's, I think with Dromai's presence, Command and Conquer and Erase Face are going to be like staple 80s for sure. Like they're going to be in the 80s of almost every deck because Erase Face is just good into Fi. It's good into Katsu. It's good into like a bunch of shit. So like not running Erase Face, like Erase Face might be like the MVP of the set. Like it seems silly.
It's nuts. Like I was sitting down, I was like, oh, it doesn't really affect every deck, and then I was like, well, Blood Rush Bellows doesn't really get that good. If you hit on that, if Erase Face had hit, like there's you think of something in every deck that makes it like, I think maybe like Azalea doesn't care. I don't even know, but
don't Rangers? No, it doesn't lose arrow, but it loses.
Yeah, does it lose the arrow?
It loses class, so it won't be a Ranger card, but it'll still be an arrow. It's still an arrow.
That's fine.
But yeah, I think Fi. A lot of people are going to play Fi, and whether it's right or not, and I hope that they do because I think Levia has two great answers in her deck. Like Deadwood Rumbler banishes from any graveyard. Just so you know, you can target their Phoenix Flame. Levia is currently.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
It's one of my favorite like turn one plays with Deadwood Rumbler because sometimes you'll hit the 6, but you don't want to banish it yet, so you just like grab something from their graveyard.
Just like, yeah, cool, we're doing this.
And it's awesome. Like just so good against Fi. Levia also is probably the deck that can play Talisman of Cremation the easiest. So get rid of more Phoenix Flames, but Fi is going to be really tough, I think, in general, because it's the most linear deck coming out of this new set, and people are going to figure it out early, and they're going to jam it because it's an aggro deck, and aggro decks always do well in the beginning of a format, but I think as the dust settles, I think Dromai might be the real all-star coming out of this set.
Yeah, I think so too.
We just haven't seen. We haven't really seen any build yet, but I think it will take a couple weeks before we see like the optimal Dromai build. But yeah, in terms of the rest of the meta, I don't think like Katsu got a nice bump, right? And then, I mean, none of the Rune Blades really got much of a bump. I mean, maybe Viscerai plays Blue Sift or something like that, and then and then Kano doesn't really get anything from this set. Icelander's going to be maybe good.
Yeah,
annoying.
Yeah, I think Icelander's going to be annoying more than she's going to be good for the first month or so. Right. But I mean, Kano, did he not Blake? Because I mean, there was a couple cards that I know you had mentioned, but
yeah, he basically what Kano got with this set it's not like improvements in terms of like card for card being like, oh, this card auto replaces. I think a couple things are like he's gonna play Aether Dart, and he's gonna play Aether Dart because it's a direct replacement for Zap. That
any target, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then he might have to play Singe. I don't know. Dampen is interesting in like the mirrors because that's a card that could be absolutely insane in Kano, where you as an instant you like
at the end of their
a ton
fucking thing, it's like you're like, oh yeah, by the way, we just stacked back and forth, and now my final stack is going to be dampen. So
true. I forgot about dampen.
Yeah, I think funny enough, like I think there's a world where Kano into low arcane barrier decks that he doesn't have to spike, like decks that don't want to run arcane because they're going to play 5 or 6 or 7 turns. I actually think Waning Moon could potentially be better than Crucible because you can easily play a non-attack with Kano every turn. It's not bothersome. And if you're playing a deck with no arcane barrier, you're just going as fast as humanly possible. So it's like not blind Kanoing, because this is the math. I've actually thought of this because I'm not typically a big, funny enough, Kano guy. I'm not like this is the math, it's way better, I know it exactly. But funny enough, with Waning Moon, if you're on your opponent's turn not blinding Kano to flip a 1-cost spell to trade 2 cards for 2 arcane damage off of a Crucible, but to flip a blue card that costs 1 to go, okay, I play this for 1, then with my 2 floating, I Waning Moon for 3. It basically turns every blue spell in your deck into a 4 arcane spell on your opponent's turn off of 2 blues.
I can see that. I mean, that's interesting. I'm like off of Waning Moon on Icelander, but I could see it finding some kind of home in Kano, at least in the sideboard.
And only I think because of his ability to play other, like he can play multiple spells, instants, right, or actions at instant speed. So that's actually good math. Body would be so proud. Body would be like, the other Blake did the card math.
I think it's funny because the equipment actually was pretty good with Kano. I think the Agluvian Constellus, Constellus. I think that's actually good if you're playing Waning Moon, because people don't realize this a lot of times, but you can zap yourself with spells. So if you like snap back blue yourself and then just block it with a floating resource, you get a charge counter on your Luvian, and then eventually you could just blow them out on turns where you get like back-to-back free Waning Moons with the charge counters on it.
Well, because also too, like it's worth noting that like a lot of times when you're Kanoing just like at the end of the opponent's turn or something, you're like, I know what I'm doing on my turn. I'm gonna be able to do something. I know you guys got an extra blue. I'm gonna pitch to Kano, see what I got, just take a peek. It's like a 1. It's like a 1. Yeah. Play it, dude. Just fucking zap yourself. Done. Like,
block it. The charge counter.
Yeah.
And eventually you just get back-to-back turns where you get to staff things. I actually also think that Spellfire Cloak in really aggressive matchups has potential to be really good, because it is what us Kano purists, I have Blood Drop Blockade in my sideboard for Blitz, but I also run it like when we were running in the Cheerios Briar meta, I was running it because they didn't run Arcane Barrier at all, and I just needed a resource. I needed to basically I was never going to get to my Tunic, so I wanted a resource to trigger my boots without having to pitch a card from hand. Spellfire Cloak is a direct upgrade Blood Drop Blockade, because the only rule is it has to be on an opponent's turn. So that's entirely fine, because I'm going to do that. That's how I typically win, is you tell me that I'm going to die and I say, hold on, let me just do some math real quick. And see if
I have a cold foil for you, by the way. Fun fact.
Excellent. I like it.
Excellent.
Dude,
we're at like an hour 10 right now. I'm fucking cool to wrap it up, but I'm gonna give Tommy last thoughts here. Like, do you have anything else? Like, after this, we're gonna have you plug all your shit. Like, I know you're coming up on 50 episodes and stuff, but like, just right now, meta, anything, final thoughts? Get the last word.
Some final thoughts. If you're scared of limited, stop, because it's more important now than it ever will be, and it'll only continue to be more important, if that makes sense. None of that made sense. Limited's the best. We're gonna have split format tournaments, like more and more nationals, worlds, pro tours. You know, I know constructed. I think a lot of people get comfy and constructed, but you got to learn limited, and there's a lot to learn. And Uprising's a hell of a set to draft, and you will have fun if you just get over that goddamn fear. And then in terms of the meta, beware the brutes. I think both Reinar and Levia are going to be actually the best position they've ever been. And yeah, I don't know. And blue cheese dressing is better than ranch dressing. And that's
yes, dude. Yes. Best. That is the best. That's a prison yard dance hard stance right there. Fucking that's a blue cheese dressing better than ranch. Fuck off.
Ironically, if there's a place to be careful to say something like that, though, it's on a podcast with Midwesterners, because in the Midwest, ranch is a religion. Like they put it on. Everything has ranch on the side here.
I remember when I went to SCG Indy, and I was like, who are these people? You know, I was like, ranch people.
Ranch on everything. Is this what the fuck's a hot dish? What is this? Dude, Tommy, honestly, it was a pleasure to meet you in Vegas. It was a pleasure just to shoot the shit there. But thank you so much for coming on. Like, it was a blast chatting with you, getting to know you a little bit more. Yeah, I want you to end this. Like, I know you mentioned at the beginning you've got episode 50 coming up. So that's congrats, because that's a milestone, dude. Mm-hmm. Like that shows that you're not fucking around, right? Like, you've pushed through 50 episodes of your podcast. That's fucking awesome. And it's gotten better with age too. Like, if you haven't listened to his stuff, people listening here, I can hop over and check out Fresh and Buds, because it's such an enjoyable experience. Like, you have really cool guests on. Like, it's a blast to listen to. It's one of my favorites. So definitely check that out. But Tommy, plug what you got. What do you got coming up? Anything interesting?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. I always love doing stuff like this. It's nice to come on to something and you know, just be able to shoot the shit like this, and you guys like make it so comfortable, and it's awesome. And I do have a lot of guests, and I want to get all of you on there. You know, we're gonna get it going. You know, I love featuring people in the community. That's like the best part. Right. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like rising tide brings all ships, whatever. But this game is amazing. And I think the more people that are doing it is the best. So, yeah, my podcast is Fresh and Buds. You can find it on Spotify, all the different audio platforms. I post the stuff on YouTube as well. I don't do video unless it's a set review. That might change in the future. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit of a purist, but you know, I know that video is like king. And dude,
did you hear what happened last week? Like, no. It was a whole fucking thing for us. I had this bright idea. Because like our big like listener base is on. We go through Podbean, but we're on mm-hmm. all of. That's where our RSS feed starts from, right? And I was like, okay, so we're just going to build a listener base, and we'll put out like a video, like a 15-20 minute video on YouTube for like a clip show, right? And then mm-hmm. that will just draw people into like the audio cast. That's big. Dude, we got so much feedback. Like, what the like people were angry. People were really like supportive too. Like, you okay? Like, you sure you don't want to do the video? But I like immediately was like, cool, I'm uploading the video tonight. We'll do the video, because so many people watch the video. I had no idea. I was like, I'm just a moron. I take my loss. Dude, I'll take this L. That was a bad idea. Like, we're going back to full video every week. Sorry about that, everybody, if you're listening. But yeah,
it's interesting because like I'm like, I mean, I've said this before and like other things, but like I'm like very much a like podcast boomer. Like, I just like, you know, mm-hmm. listen to them, you know, that's what I do.
Podcast is an audio thing. The whole like video podcast, that's like a separate category. But yeah, with you. But
it's a talk show at that point, but whatever, you know, it's neither here nor there. I love it all. And, you know, my last podcast, the set review was video for anybody wondering, because, you know, got to show the cards and stuff. But yeah, no, that was like the biggest thing when I first started like telling people I had a podcast. I was like, yeah, I have a podcast. You can check it on here. And I was like, it's on YouTube. I'm like, well, yeah, it's just the audio though. It's like, okay. And I was like, they listen there, which is like, even with like just my logo up, I'm like, all right, whatever, cool. You know, but yeah, my podcast is Fresh and Buds. You can find it on all the platforms. Twitter is @FreshBudsPod. And yeah, I don't know, just
check them out, keep it on, guys. Check them out if you haven't, because it's fucking awesome, dude. I love the way that you run it. Super enjoyable listen. Well, yeah, that's all we got. Awesome, guys. That's all we got. Blake, final thoughts? I won't just give it to Tommy.
No final thoughts.
Nothing.
Prism.
Perfect.
At the Prism.
Death to Prism. Death to Prism. Someone help us figure out Icelander because I just want to play control. That's all I want. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We know we went a little long tonight, but fucking gotta give the time to Tommy, man. It was awesome having you on. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out Tommy's channel. We've got that link down in the description. And we'll talk to you next week. Peace.